What's up, Buck fans? It's the aftermath on 102.9, the game Broad Street South Radio. Let's discuss this loss to the Eagles in detail. So stay tuned. What's up, Buck fans? Happy Tuesday. It's welcome to the aftermath on 102.9 the game, Broad Street South Radio. It's your boy AJ Turnup. We got my man Coach Slick, aka that British guy who's always flying on standby. How y'all doing? I hope y'all all right. Before we even get into the game, I said happy Tuesday for a reason. The sky is not falling, Buck fans. Your Buccaneers are still 2-1. They lost to the defending NFC champions, so they lost to an actual good team. So instead of just taking it as a severe loss, take it as a severe learning curve. So with that, how are you doing today, Slick?
I mean, obviously, I think when I really look back at it, it wasn't the fact that we lost, because let's face it, we weren't going to go 17-0. That's a fact. And this is probably
Right.
one of those teams that was going to be the marker that says we go something and something, right?
That's right.
So, like, if you pick the five best teams that we're up to go against at this point in time, technically the Buccaneers only lose 5 games, right? And that's fantastic. But we know that there's going to be more than that. Like,
Yes.
there's probably going to be 5 or more losses. There's going to be 4 more losses and plus potentially down the line. So this is it, guys. Just, it's how we lost. We got straight up manhandled. The scoreline really flatters us, if truth be told. And but that's probably down to a couple of negated drives from interceptions.
Yes.
So that's good defensive play. So it probably is what it is, what it says on the tin, so to speak. I think if I were to look at it and the Buccaneers would have lost in this way, so we're at the half with 13-3, or let's go with 13-7. Let's go with that. They get the ball, they score a touchdown. We get the ball, we score a touchdown, and then we do some field goal trades, and they just edge us out. I think we're all thinking, well, at least our offense is moving, at least our defense is making some stops, and at least we're in the game. But we weren't really in the game. We had 2 drives of possession that actually yielded points, and I think that's the tough pill to swallow. Right. Now, you've been a big advocate of this, AJ. You've been saying this since day one. You can't expect this team offensively to be great to begin with. It's going to take time, and it may take until the middle of the season before you really see the fruition. Maybe this was just a defense a little too stern for an offense that's still learning.
Absolutely. The 2 words that can describe this whole entire Bucks and Eagles game is intimidation and what was the next word? Intimidation and inexperience. Those are the 2 big things. Intimidation, the first one, is due to the fact that I was not impressed with the coaching staff or the players on this team, but mostly, again, the coaching staff, because they came in with a game plan of fearing the opponents more than believing in their players. And I have to call it what it is, because I said the same thing about Bowles and Byron. I felt that vibe again, where they felt overmatched instead of playing to their best. You have to go into a game the way that I teach my kids and when I used to coach them, or anybody. I don't give a damn who you guys are playing. Yes, they're going to get all the hype, but you know how you can shut that down? Sometimes, you ever seen the movie Wizard of Oz? So Wizard of Oz is basically
I'm sorry, I've seen Wizard of Oz. Yes. I do apologize.
So
I've read the book as well.
And remember, the Wiz was supposed to be this all-powerful being that controlled everything. Sure. And what happened when
he was a fraud? He was a magician.
When the curtains were unveiled, it showed you that it was a phony. That's how I teach my kids to go into games. Sometimes challenging the best player to their abilities, you will shock yourself because they might not be as good as you think they
You
are.
might see a little bit peek behind the curtain and go, actually, this guy's not that, not either worse than me or not far, or exactly the same level as me, and I can beat that. I can beat this, and
That's
they
right.
become more human.
That's right. And when they went in there, I felt like the execution was not on par. Of course, the weather did not help, but the inexperiences on the play calling of Canales. Now, when I say that, there were certain things, it goes hand in hand. So I'll go back to the intimidation part. When it comes to the offense, Baker was rattled. You can tell by the second quarter, Baker was experiencing the Jameis Winston syndrome of wanting to be the hero. There were too many times where the one play that I messaged you about where he launched it to Evans when he simply could have run. If people go back and watch that book,
That's not taking what the defense is offering. And the defense
that's
that was
right.
wide open in the middle.
The
I
middle,
completely agree.
if he wanted to run, that was 30 yards. Now people thought I was exaggerating, but I say if you look at that and the weather, if he does the right move and jukes the safety, that's another 30 yards down the field.
I agree and I disagree. I don't think there's potential of a 30, but the way I saw it was when you said that, I agreed with you, but I said to you, even if he doesn't get the first down, that is still the right call in that situation. I think he would have got it, but my point being is, it's in that exact moment. That was the best play that was on off. That was the right play, and even if you don't make it, you might get a 4th and 1, or you most likely will get it. You're probably gonna get it, but if you don't get it, it's still the right call. Sometimes it's good to make the right play. I think he didn't go too Jameis, which was a good thing,
Yes.
as in like he went too crazy. Like you said, he did get a little rattled, but ultimately he took care of the football. I didn't have a problem with his interception because he didn't look up. He looked off his wide receiver and then looked to him. The safety just wasn't fooled and went for it. It was a good pick. He comes down, cleans up the ball, and it's a good pick. Like it's not a it wasn't a dumb, stupid throw. That's
No,
the only thing I can take. That's what I can take out of it. And they made such a big thing about it. They forget to mention that their superstar quarterback through 2 picks himself.
oh yeah, we're gonna get to that in a second. Trust me. The Eagles, if anything, the Eagles did not play the game that they wanted. They won due to the fact of the Bucs' inexperience on offense. It's a new scheme. They're still gelling. A few different catches. This is a different ball game. Mike Evans. We love Mike Evans here. We always say pay the man, but also Evans, you got to earn your keep on this one.
Today we had
And
to grade the man.
yes, because I gave him a B minus this game. I don't care about the catch because I know he can do that. We've seen that. But when in the first quarter, when the ball was thrown in the end zone and you do not extend your hands and go for it and try to bring it in, that's unacceptable. Because at that point, that's a 7 point bounce, and now you can get the momentum for your defense.
I
But
will say, however, on that touchdown, had Baker Mayfield put it on the outside frame of the body rather than in the middle of the numbers, and he
yes,
put it out, so he's having a catch like this rather than like this, like kind of
yes,
belly. He kind of takes it into the gut, doesn't he? Kind of
yes,
like more like this, and then the hand comes in and strips the ball out.
yes.
But again, all he had to do is, if you want to do that, is just take a step forward. He just kind of like slowly tiptoed backwards into the end zone. As he takes one step forward and turns his body as that ball's coming in, he just falls into the ball, and that's it. But hey, it's
It,
football; it happens.
it does, and that's why I said the inexperience, because with the play calling. Now, the person that I say intimidation, I have lost a lot of faith in Rashad White as a running back, because for me personally, as someone who loves that position, Rashad White failed the Bucs last night, and he failed miserably due to the fact that for running backs, it's okay to sometimes try to read if you can get it through a hole, but initially, when you are playing against a tough run defense as the Eagles, Your main objective sometimes in the beginning of the game is to hit the hole hard enough, and you need to run through and not around your opponents. And that is where Rashad White failed because he was too busy dancing around. I can sense the intimidation, and that is what caused that fumble. Instead of trying to juke a lot, he sometimes, especially against a tough defense like that,
Put the shoulder
break
down.
them down, break them down. That's what made Allstott so loved in this team, in this organization, and what made him effective. When Allstott, the way that he was like a chess person and running, ramming, and beating them up. And then by the third, fourth quarter, your linebackers or defensive linemen don't want to tackle somebody who throws their body into you. And that's what was going on. The run game was completely ineffective, completely miserable. And Rashad White was the issue. And I have no faith. My faith in him has dwindled down to 10% because I don't see it. You have 3 games to get it together, and yet you're still playing sloppy. I think he's a good receiving running back, but this is now, if I'm Bowles, Tucker, let's see what you can do. You need to hit that hole because this run game cannot continue to be this way, or Jason Light might have to try to make some financial works and get someone else who can do the job. The Bucs are definitely in need of a north and south runner. If Canales and Bowles want to get this offense running, they're going to have to get a north and south guy. Rashad White is not that guy. I've lost faith in him. I was very disappointed in him because this is where I miss the Leonard Fournettes and the Cadillac Williams of our time, where those guys would just hit the hole and blow up defenders, and Mike Allstott. So, and Canales, you know how I am, Slick. There was not enough crossing routes or undercrossing. It was almost like they were playing Byron-esque energy where they were just trying to get the ball out quick. And I didn't see no true creativity, nothing. Palmer should have been utilized far more than what he was. I get they wanted to go with Tompkins, but Palmer and Evans and Godwin should have been your priority. Otten was catching a little bit of fire, but that's just how I feel. The offense was very inexperienced. And of course, the defense was keeping us in the game, but they let us down due to this. This killed your Bowles. This killed your Bucs defense. This killed your Bucs defense, especially in the fourth quarter. When you had 9 minutes left after they scored the touchdown, you couldn't get the Bucs off. The Bucs couldn't even get the Eagles off the field, and you let Swift run all over you because you were tired, and they did not load the box. I don't care that Dean was out. Load the damn box. Hurts didn't, ladies and gentlemen, Buck fans, as you saw, Hurts didn't shred this Bucs team. He didn't shred us. The Bucs shredded themselves with all those cushion coverages. Even Aikman was talking about it. And also, I have to throw this out there because we talked about it in the beginning. The refs were blind. The ref must have been blind because the Eagles were holding ridiculously on so many levels. And that's what was pissing me off because the way that the narrative was going, it was as if, especially the way Troy and Aikman were glossing over them. Oh, the Eagles' offensive line is just manhandling them. No, they're man-holding them, and they're doing a lot of false starts, which is pissing me off because one of their linemen is notorious for it. So I didn't like that narrative because the Bucs were getting pressure, but they were being held. Now, how did you feel about that?
Well, before I give what I feel, I'll bring in old Salty Buck in because he's been waiting patiently to take his place. So please welcome old Salty Buck to the show.
What's up, guys?
Man, nothing much. We're just trying to look at the silver lining and
I'm down.
Yes, yeah. That's right. That's what I had to do. But since you're on here, yeah, you give us your analysis of the game on both sides. What was it like for you how did you feel first on the offense and then the defense?
All right. So taking a look at this team before this game even started, the team has a problem with their interior offensive line. Those 3 individuals are playing below average at best when it comes to run blocking, and their pass protection is average. They're bookended by two tackles that are working very well on the outsides. But as you saw throughout this entire game, pressure came up through the middle quite frequently. And if we take a look back at some of the numbers for Baker Mayfield, he's been historically bad with pressure up the center. And I think what we saw was a lot of that pressure being applied to Baker prevented the pass game from getting going. And then I agree with you on White. White is not a north-south runner. He is not a bruiser. He's a fast twitch, shifty individual who needs to, one, cut, be patient, and find a hole. He's not a Leonard Fournette who picks where he's going and will just slam bodies who are in his way. The way this offense is designed, you need a Leonard Fournette, not a Rachaad White. So that run game didn't get going. And if you look at Kenneth Walker from Seattle last season when he was sitting in very much the same offense with a good line, he was seeing over 2.5 yards before contact. Rachaad White, I think, is sitting at 1.7, 1.6 yards before contact. And that does not lend itself well to any game whatsoever when you don't have a bruising back. So that stagnated the offense greatly. So first and foremost, the center of that offensive line is doing a poor job, which has a negative effect that runs ripples through the running back and to the quarterback. Now, I caught your comment on grading Mike Evans. I completely agree. You can't be the one who wants to get paid and stay on the team and then drop some key passes. If you look at those two big ones at the first quarter, you're talking about a first down that would have put them in Eagles territory. So that's a 3-point differential right there that was lost. It could have, we could play the what if game all day. It could have been 7 points. And then the drop touchdown, which ended up resulting in a subsequent field goal, that's another loss of 4 points. That would put the game at somewhere between 10-3 in favor of the Bucs, all the way up to 17-3 in favor of the Bucs at that point in time. That's a momentum shift that's monumental and applies the pressure back to the Eagles. But those two drops were so indicative of just the bad way this game started and how it flowed through the entire day. It was ridiculous. But that's where I see this offense from this Monday.
You're right on on what you said about the middle, which is where Canales, they failed to truly adjust. If they're going to destroy the middle, that's where rollouts should have been coming, bootlegs. They should have gotten involved with crossing routes, as I stated earlier. You have to use your speed, guys. The Eagles linebacking core is not fast like the Bucs. They're not going to go east and west like Levante and Devin. They were not taking advantage, and that's where I said intimidation came in. If a coach, you cannot play another team and believe in what they can do more than your own players. That's where you get lost in the sauce, and that's when blowouts can come. Because if we really look at it, Hurts didn't destroy this team. They did what we did the past 2 games against the Vikings and the Bears. They body shot, then haymakers. They used Swift brilliantly to run us down, but also even in the passing game, they took what we gave. Bowles, again, I'm going to continue to this. I'm going to make a shirt out of this, fellas. No cushion. Every time they did cushion coverage, that's when the Eagles got a first down. That's when they were able to stay on the field for third downs. That's unacceptable, even with Deans coming out. Go strictly to man. I told you I like chaos on the line of scrimmage. Hurts is not Peyton Manning to where he's going to sling it, because even if he does, you have Winfield. And we got to give it up to the other safety who had a hell of a game too. The Eagles were offensively just taking what we gave them.
Absolutely.
I didn't think if the Bucs have got to understand Bowles and Slick, you can chime in on this too. The bend and break mentality, sometimes you got to break them first. I need Bowles to get a defense to where get a turnover on the first possession. Stop letting them march them down to figure them out. Do that shit on the second round. Break them first. Figure them out, because if you break them on the first drive, then your offense gets the ball on the short field and they can get at least 3 or 7 points. Now you can say, okay, let's see what they're going to do now. That's just how I feel about it. I think Bowles let this defense down, and so did the offense. But when you allow a defense to just sit out there, those boys were steamed. Those guys were steamed by the end of, I'd say by the late third quarter, Slick and Buck Salty, I think that they were done. By the third quarter, they were
gassed. They were out of it.
So
you can't have a time of possession that's only a third of the game and expect your defense out there for 2/3 of the game and still have energy come the fourth quarter. That just doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
You're not being fair, especially in that heat too and in the rain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, gentlemen, my keys to what went wrong. Key issues were to Mike Irvin's key drops. We can talk about a third one if you want to go down the double coverage. I just think it was a stupid throw, personally. The inability to stop the run. That worries me a little bit more because we do go up against an Atlanta Falcons team that is good who is a good running football team. If we can't fix that Atlanta game is going to be one of those ones that you earmark on your calendar as, I hope we can stop the run. Our inability to start the run and continue to keep trying to do so. I understand of trying to keep a balance. I respect it. I understand it. But at the same time, there comes a point when you go, this ain't working. Let's go to plan A. They want to force us to put the ball in Baker's hands. Let's see what Baker can do. And if he sucks, he fucking sucks. There's no two ways about it. Put the ball in his hands, and as soon as he's slinging passes and he's making plays, all of a sudden that defense is going to stop selling out for the run, and they're going to start selling out for your pass. And now you can reintroduce that. Oh, we got a guest, special guest.
Get out of here! I like him.
It's all right. My son pops up occasionally, so it's all good. But that was the thing. This Buccaneers team just kept trying. It's almost like they found a brick wall and go, if we keep hitting it, eventually this brick wall is going to fall down. And I was like, yes, but this is a very good defensive front. This isn't the Bears. This isn't Minnesota. This isn't a team that you can cancel out by keep doing it. This is like, okay, I would say he's got to have in his mind 2 scores. If you're down by 2 scores, you have to abandon, and your run game is ineffective, you have to abandon it.
Yes.
Because you're just burning time.
Well, you at least need to adjust it. There was no adjustment at all during the game.
No, the run felt very right up the front, right up the gut. It felt very. There was no off. There was no tosses. There was no creative. There was no motion from the run game. So like having no true motion. So like having a slot receiver come in and then break down and to help seal the edge, and then you toss the ball off. That kind of stuff. I wanted to see that kind of creativity. What happened to all those orbits and what do you call it? Not screens. I don't remember what they call like your end arounds and your jet sweeps and stuff like that. Yeah. There was none of that they done in preseason. And I'm like, why aren't we seeing if our wide receivers that got speed can do something here, and we're able to, and we seal an edge and we're able to do something here? Then we might have something a bit more. But it was the fact that we kind of felt we just stuck with the same thing. Now, referee bad decisions. I'm one person that never wants to. We didn't lose the game because of refereeing decisions, but it didn't help the game.
No,
it kind of gave us a bigger grave to try and dig ourselves out of. And the thing that irritated me the most is the false start. It was clearly cleared, picked up on, and then they were spending ages trying to figure out if they tackled somebody out of bounds and he didn't make that first down marker or what have you because of his elbow or what have you. And I'm like, it doesn't fucking matter. They should be going, we'll give this one to the Bucs because we clearly fucked up on the false start. Yeah. I know they're going to play the referee decision to the referee decision. But once you've screwed up one decision in the same play, you should really be going, yeah, that guy's we've got to give this one to the Bucs. It's a 50-50. We'll give it to the Bucs because we done fucked up. In my opinion, that's how. If I was a referee, that's how I would call it. Because I've reffed a couple of times. I fucking hate it. I hate refereeing. It's because no one likes what you're saying. Like somebody, doesn't matter what you fucking say. Someone, because there's going to be one side that penalty goes against, is acting as if you've murdered their son in front of them. I'm like, no, I don't need that shit. So
no, I get it. It's a tough position to be in, especially, but. And I know I'm going way out here with the conspiracies, but this is why I can understand why a lot of fans are very upset and they find things sus, because sometimes the NFL dynamics is set on narratives instead of the actual game. Because narrative wise, the Eagles line is one of the best, right? And they were mauling and they were dominating. Like if you really, that's
They
what
didn't mention those holding calls in that throw, but they were abundantly
and
obvious.
Troy was pissing me off with that, because you're talking all this nonsense, but you're not bringing up the fact that on the first touchdown Hurts threw, the reason why it got open, the Bucs defense played it perfectly. They were in position to get a sack at least. Triangle was held ridiculously. Gaines was held ridiculously. Shaq Barrett was held ridiculously. But again, what did they say? That line was just Kelce. I don't give a shit about Kelce. And see, the storyline, I don't care about that. I care about football. And they were not giving the Bucs a chance. And that momentum carried. And that is what tired the defense out. Because again, I think Buc fans, you should have. I was happy that the Bucs defense was fighting it out as long as they could, because again, I was not impressed by Hurts. I can tell you this both now. I guarantee you with confidence, they play like that against the 49ers. The 49ers will blow the Eagles out because they have continuity. That's one thing that the NFC powerhouses have over this Bucs team at the moment is continuity on offense. When we get there, I'd say right now this Bucs team offensively will get their shit together by the end of November or early December. But yes, the way that the game was called yesterday on offense, it kind of gave me Bowles-esque energy. Don't just play to not mess up instead of playing to win. Like you said, Slick and Salty, but we've seen in the preseason creativity, motions, tosses, and this is where the formula has got to come in. This is why I'm like this, guys. Where the hell is Vaughn? I don't care about your personal issues with the man. When Vaughn gets in the game, he's the hammer.
He's probably out of all those players that we name that currently on the Buccaneers roster, he's probably that guy you could probably send at the moment, on this exact moment, you could probably send to crash it up.
You do, yeah, that's the guy. And at this point, Bowles, I know he
just to have a look at it. Like, why did we not explore that option?
Exactly. You got to put the bullshit besides. We're trying to win here, guys. All that other stuff that's personal, get that Arians mindset out of here. Bring your best guys in there to win, because White is not that guy. And as a running back, I'm telling you both, that was pissing me off. Because even when I did backyard, my duty, especially with my size, I wanted to fuck the guy up. I wanted to put I was taught by the guys and coaches and old heads above me, because AJ, of your size and your energy and your low, because I'm 5'7", but I'm a rock. I used to go for
your 5'7".
Yeah.
You really look up to me.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I started off as a running back and I'm a shifty dude. So I was always, when I played rugby, which was my first sport I started playing, I could always step around, and that's their word of a duke, a sidestep. And I could always step around people and get around. So when I became a running back, I added that into my thing. And my running backs coach would get so pissed off with me for doing it. I get yards for it. And he went, can you try that? But now try putting your shoulder into him instead of dancing. I got more yards.
Yes. Well, look at the way Kenneth Walker hits a hole.
You go to what you kind of go what you think is your skill set, and sometimes what you think your skill set is doesn't necessarily work, because you're playing to them, because your dancing is allowing them to line you up, figure you, like size you up, figure you out, and then get the tackling because you're dancing. Yes. It's sidesteps and jukes, or whatever you want to call them. They're useful when it's mono on mono.
That's right.
Not when there's 4 or 5 guys on you. Now, we see it occasionally, someone breaks off and squeaks through, but generally it is a one-on-one situation where it's you and a DB or it's you and a linebacker, and you're sallying one way, and then you just flip and you go the other way, because you're forcing them to go one way. You're going, I'm going to the left. They go, oh, you're going to the left? Fine. Then all you have to do is get them to break their leverage, which means they've overcommitted their leverage, which means I always say to them, you've got to stay, if you were tackling this part of my body, you got to stay this side of my framework. As soon as you come over to here, I've got you. I can change directions, and all of a sudden you're on the other side of me, and now you're playing catch up, which means you're going to put a foot in the ground and turn around. That's just the physics of the human body having to change direction.
Yeah, and another physics is when your momentum, again, 5'7", like you said, I loved it because guys who were 6'2", they couldn't get as low as I could. My center of gravity was already there, and by the time they get in that position,
Mighty Mouse.
yeah, I'm just gonna run at your hips, your pelvis. By the third quarter, your body is gonna be bruised because as they say, like boxers, when Frazier used to hit Ali in his side, your body locks up, so you can't be as shifty. So that's what I do. And then it also, believe it or not, I know people think hard runners don't last long. Yet maybe eventually, but they don't get as a lot of them. I didn't get as injured as much because I'm falling
To hit
over
though, you're expecting to hit. I think when it's like tacklers don't get as injured as much as people, and same as like bruising running backs. It's the soft tissue injuries that get you out. Like it's not the fucking hits to the chest. Those are the fucking easy ones.
Yep.
That's the easy shit. You've got some shoulder pads and some chest protection, and most of them probably usually wear something around the midriff if they're going to take those kind of body shots and what have you. It's players like wide receivers who go up in the air and can potentially get hit, and I'm not talking about like because they can't do that anymore, but like when two players go up in the air to compete for a ball, you could come down and fall awkwardly and what have you and hurt yourself. Or if you're running and someone trips you, is way more dangerous than someone running into your shoulder or running into your midsection.
Yeah, that's
You'll
right.
be gassed you might go, oh, fuck,
Yep.
and air just goes, okay.
Yeah, exactly. But that's why running backs like that are very effective throughout the history of the NFL, especially when they need to chew up clock. Because one, for me, when you fall forward, I'm going to fall on you because then that's going to put more pressure and fear of the defender. Like, shit, I don't want this big guy. Like, can you imagine Nick Chubb falling on you or the Garrett Blunt or Fournette when he was at 250? You don't want that. And it gets a rhythm of the offense. Last night, guys, we can all agree on this. The
What
offense
we would have done for a LeGarrette Blunt last night.
exactly. And that's the thing. I think the offense didn't even get a chance to calm down. They felt like on edge. Like, okay, it was like, guys, let's just hope this works. Let's hope this works. Let's make it happen. But instead, they didn't have the same confidence. And as you said, they were out coached. They were out coached.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Everything that the coach did on the Eagles, he was smart. He said, "No, I'm going to take what you give me. I'm not going to have to throw deep all the time." Hurts literally barely ran, and he wasn't like slicing us. He got big plays due to the fact that the Bucs, when they stayed off of that dumbass cushion coverage. Okay, I'm just going to throw it right here, and then AJ Brown is a good yak receiver. Now I'm just going to let him do the work.
Yep.
They should have played more man at that point and because I think
I'm not even in agreement in that. There's so many zone coverages, and people just I think people just look at cover 1, cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, and think that's it. There's 15 different versions of cover 3 where you can fool them and what have you. But I just wanted to go into this. The biggest thing for defense for me that really, I'd say, ground my gears, how bad were tackles? We get guys about to hit a running back and slide off them at the 2-yard gain mark, and then they spring it for 8. And I'm like, that shit's got to stop, because that's why their run game was so effective. We tackled incredibly poorly. It was almost embarrassing to watch. We're just sliding off tackles. I don't know if people were trying to go for kill shots, because if you go for a kill shot, there's a high percentage chance of missing, because you're just literally throwing your body into space. Sometimes you connect, sometimes you don't. But that's kind of how it felt for the Buccaneers. They get guys that stumble, they regain their footing, and then they gain more.
Even more credit towards the Eagles running backs for their ability to break those tackles and things like that. But I completely agree. Every single play, it seemed as though the first person to make contact with the running back was one, losing grip and spinning off, or hitting the ground, and the running back kept going. And it was definitely something that was frustrating me to watch as well. And I did notice, though, that was more so in the third and fourth quarter, especially as the third quarter ran down. And it goes back to that inability for the
second, and then just in the middle of the third.
But it rolls back into that inability for the offense to stay on the field. Your defense getting tired, and then the weather conditions didn't help either. But I'm not making excuses for them. That was some poor tackling because they were able to tackle when we would run. And
we had the ball. They tackled us down.
Absolutely.
There weren't too many we sprang. So
yeah, the game. I sensed that the game was going to go wrong in so many ways. I remember when what set it off for me is when Delaney got the interception. I was happy about it, but I kind of was like at the 2 yard. I said, that's usually not good. I hate when they do that because I knew with this Eagles defense,
you wanted it to be an incompletion.
Yeah, they're going to be aggressive, but I knew that, and the play calling was atrocious. As you Slick guys, Bucs, listen to Slick. Slick knows his shit. At this point, I'm gonna tell you, Bucky. I'm gonna tell you, my man. I'm not running. Rachaad White is not the guy that you want to give that to. Rojo would have been better at that because he could hit a hold at least. You pass. You got all these receivers. Sometimes, even if they see something obvious, you got to stop it first. I'm getting at this point. I'm doing a 3 wide receiver set. Godwin is my slot guy. Palmer and Evans are on the outside. I dare you to beat us with that shit. I dare you to try to get us that way. And that's where Rachaad White, you're going to be a blocker. So they don't get any cute ideas. They want to get aggressive. Palmer's going to do a short, Godwin will do a short crossing route, and Evans will go all out, and then something that way. That run call was awful. I knew that was coming. I knew it was a safety.
Yeah, I did too. And I think the thing you've got to keep in mind about that call was look at the percentage of how many runs we had busted before the line of scrimmage. And if your answer is more than you'd like, don't fucking call a run play.
As soon as they spotted the ball, I knew if they went for a run, things were going to go wrong. At that point in time, minus the first drive, Rachaad White had only had one rush that was greater than 2 yards. You can't expect to give yourself enough room, even for the punt team, if you're going to play for a punt, pin back that deep for Rachaad White to get those types of yardage. It just wasn't happening. They had already established that the center of the offense was getting abused, so that there was no way that you run it one down the middle. I agree with AJ. Everybody expects you to run, so I go out there. I line up in some formation that allows me to look like I might be able to run. I roll White out because he can catch and run. I roll White out out to the slot position. That way I can have myself a larger set. You have to play all 3 levels, short, intermediate, and deep in your paths. Use somewhat of a pick play and a crossing route and get yourself out and get yourself some breathing room because the run game wasn't going to do it. And as soon as he hiked that ball, I knew it was over.
Oh, me too.
Now, I would like to go down the route of what they were doing to us, a sneak. Because you're gonna just one sneak to get you a bit of space to breathe in, and now you've got a 2 yard a 2 yard operation space. So now I can do a little bit more, and then go to what like you guys were alluding to, because I think you've still got to gain something to begin with, even if it's just marginal, because you can't go back to the sneak a second time. You just can't do it. And you've got to dress it up as if it was just a normal run play. The moment you bring in those extra 2 guards next to the quarterback, they know what's coming, and it's. I mean, they did it to us, and we knew what was fucking coming, and we couldn't stop it. And then they've rehearsed that. They've got a very good offensive line, and I think that's the big difference in this game is their defensive line and their offensive line are complete stud throughout, and that was the pick. The trench warfare was what won, and then we weren't being creative enough to try and outthink it. We were trying to match it, and we can't. We're just not.
And I'd go back.
Maybe defensively we had our one-on-one battles here and there, but like the run game, they dented us. And I saw Devin White was a couple of times was quite close to the line. I'm like, you're going to put Devin White up against, I wouldn't say an all-pro because they're not all-pro, but like a really good offensive guard. I'm talking about top-tier offensive guard. He's going to get eaten because all they got to do is get hands on him. He's light. He's a linebacker. Linebackers like to take on blocks as they're coming at speed. So they can make them miss. They can use their momentum against them. When you got them almost a yard or 2 off each other, I'm expecting that linebacker to lose. Because that's just that's why edge defenders go against tackles. They use speed and power to beat them. a combination of the two.
And those guys
And that's because that's why your tackles can't be big lumps of boys, like a guard can be. Guards and centers can be lumper boys. They can be buffet boys all day long, but those tackles they've got to stay athletic. They have to be speedy. They have to be able to adjust on the fly as things are moving. Those big boys in the middle, those three guys in the middle, they're just looking to lay hands on you and just drive you forward. That's all they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're bullies. That's their whole thing. They are lunch money takers.
That's perfect, Slick. Like you said, and Devin is not a big linebacker. He's not Von Miller. He's not a DeMarcus Ware. He is a Derek Brooks-esque size like Levante. Those guys are speed.
But those guys still come off the edge. They don't come down the middle. And when you come down the middle as a linebacker, you usually are scraping off someone like Vita Vea's ass. You know,
or it's a delayed stunt, and the gap is already created by
something else, or their brain has gone somewhere else, and you know that they're going to go somewhere else, or they're going to do something else, and you work around it. It's never usually a guard versus
you're not putting him there nose to nose.
A middle linebacker, and the middle linebacker is going to win. That battle's going to be won by the guard 90% of the time.
Agreed. But that goes to show you that Bowles was getting a little frustrated. But what pisses me off about Bowles is his stubbornness. If you know something is bad, why do you continue to do it? Don't be spiteful. Don't cut your nose to spite your face, Bowles.
Mm-hmm.
If the cushion is shit, go to something else. You know what got me? Zion McCollum didn't even have an awful game. I actually
am extremely proud. The defensive backs actually played very, very well.
Yes, they did.
Because most of the game was played by the running backs, right? That was pretty much it. Like the run game was it, and if our safeties have the most tackles, that's a bad day for your defense, because that means they've got past the second level.
Amen.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
Nope.
Amen. You guys are right, and that's why I was sitting there saying, if Hurts had to pass more than run, you guys are right. The MVP is not Hurts. The real MVP of the Eagles was Swift and the defense. If Hurts had to pass a lot more, I think the Bucs would have got home, because look at it. When he was throwing the ball, he wasn't killing us. That's why I have hope for this defense, but this is why I would employ for Bowles to really, I think I need him to limit. He can't have no cushion coverage over 5 yards anymore. I'd say, man, for the first few weeks.
I mean, everyone does cushion coverage, so I don't have a huge problem with it, but it's when you see it at key points, and the one I think the one that we're all going to talk about is Pitts Jr. I don't know his first name, versus AJ Brown, and the cushion coverage that he gave him. He catches the ball and he literally just has to fall forward, and he's got the first down. Why that wasn't, and then there are multiple ways to play this. There was a gentleman on Facebook who was ranting and raving in the UK NFL UK Facebook groups and what have you about it, and a lot of people came after him. And I said, look, there's so many different ways you can approach that. You can play off, but you need to have someone underneath to show the off. So this is what you can play off. And let me put it this way: if you're playing a sound zone coverage, the person who's got the flats, you can play off. And if you've been playing off man, they might go, oh, I've got this. No, you haven't, because my guy who's the flat dropper is just going to appear in that spot, and you're going to give him the ball. That's the kind of stuff. Then you could also argue, and then you've got, in either way, you've got him bracketed because you've got someone underneath and someone over the top. But because they blitzed somebody, they weren't able to do that. Mm-hmm. So that made it difficult. So they not only did they blitz somebody, they're now putting it 1-on-1 versus a guy who's given an 8-yard cushion, who's playing against a very good wide receiver. It's not like he's playing against no scrub. This is the number one, the cat, the man, the guy that people are picking on their fantasy football teams, versus a guy called Pitts Jr., who I've never heard of before. And he was going to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I will say this for me personally, after the loss, after I got finished not being pissed, because I'm not going to lie, I made my video during the third quarter because I knew the game was over. A lot of people were saying, no, it's not over. I'm like, no, it's over, because this team, they let themselves down. But one thing I do like about this loss, this will allow them to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, what did we do wrong? Because I kind of like the fact that the Bucs lost this game because now
Humbles you a little bit, makes you
Yeah.
hungrier.
Yeah, it makes you hungrier, and now this makes you actually evaluate your players. I know Bowles can't always come out and say it because he doesn't want to knock his team, but I assure you, I bet you, his coaches and all them, they're looking at this running back situation and saying, okay, we can't afford to wait for White to get his shit together. We can't, guys. We're going up against another team as the Saints that want to stop the run. It's either we split reps or Bowles, you and Vaughn got to kiss and make up. Get that shit worked out and get him in there. Vaughn is
I don't necessarily think Vaughn's the answer because you can still go and get Leonard Fournette. He doesn't have a job right now.
That's true. Get somebody.
The problem is Leonard Fournette wanted to leave. So whether or not
the longer he spends out of football, the harder it's going to be to get back into it. That's the way you would sell it to him. Say, you don't have to come back. That's fine. But sat on your couch, no one hires the running back 1 year removed, unless he was fucking elite and he was like, I'm just beat up. I need a year off.
The counter to that argument is we saw 2 running backs go down this weekend already from other teams. And that's 3 weekends in a row where 4, I think.
Who went down this week?
There's 4 starting running backs have gone down already since week 1.
Chubb.
Eckler's injured. Yep. And then shoot.
They're both on my fantasy football team.
The Packers running back. Packers running back.
Aaron Jones.
Yeah, because he's on my fantasy.
Fuck yeah, now.
He
might get a call up. Look, dude, that's my question for you gentlemen. Do the Buccaneers start looking?
Yes,
I would have already. So I'd be looking for 2 things here. One, I'm calling Leonard Fournette if I'm the GM, and I want to know
there's a relationship there, right?
What we can do to get things back, and then the other thing is, let me pull up the name real quick because now I've lost my train of thought. Roger Saffold.
Okay.
The guard from Buffalo last season played over 1,000 snaps, decent across the board numbers wise. Not entirely sure why he's not on a team right now. He is older. He's 34, but you only need him for a year while you're still trying to figure out your own offensive line. I'd be calling these 2 gentlemen up, and I'd be like, all right, let's get the offensive line beefier, more aggressive, because he has a Ryan Jensen type attitude. And
we're still waiting for someone to bring that nastiness to the offensive line, and we all were hoping it was going to be Cody Mark because of how fiery of a person he is, but it doesn't look like it so far.
No, he's got to gain some confidence before he can do that.
Agreed.
So I'm calling those 2 gentlemen up and be like, hey, we have a shot at this. You 2 can help us turn it around and put it in the right perspective. You're going to have to re-sign some players, especially with all the amount of dead money that's sitting there for next season with all these void years, which I hate.
Every time I feel like we've restructured the contract and it's he's got void years till his grandma died. Great. Just what we fucking do. He'll be retired. 17 was still paying imaginary money that doesn't exist.
They can re-sign a couple players. Take the remainder of this year's salary, prorate it as a bonus, so it gets spread across the 3 to 4 years that you've re-signed a player for. Give yourself enough cap room, and you can go after these 2 players, which I'm actually writing an article about. So we'll see that on Bucs Report later. You'll be able to sign these 2 players, and you can, at best, you're at a 1-year borrow with them. It's not going to hurt your cap the next year. And as of right now, you don't have an answer to your problem on your roster. So you need to do something.
Absolutely.
And then the other thing that needs to happen is the 3 of us sat here and talked about it last week. We sat there and talked about the offensive and defensive scheme was starting to open up. It opened up after we saw what they were at a baseline in week 1. They opened it up in week 2. You correct me if I'm wrong. It felt to me like the playbook was closed more this week than it was opened.
Yes.
And that bothered me too.
Yeah, you're right. Intimidation. That's why I said the two words were intimidation. And
Sometimes you find a team backed into a corner, they'll be a little bit more riskier. And then this is something I wanted to jump on. One of the things I didn't like about the coaching staff was we allowed the Eagles an 8-minute drive to close out the game, right? This is an opportunity. Now, just give me your thoughts on this. I'm just looking at it from my coach as a coach myself. I've never been an offensive coach. I'm not interested in being an offensive coach, but I don't know enough about offense. But if I'm an offensive coach, or I'm turning to, let's get the ball back and let's just fucking go crazy with some plays that let's see if they work. Let's see if this works. Let's see if that works. Because it does not matter. You've lost the game. So let's get the ball back. Oh, well, there's 2 minutes to go. Let's do a 2-minute drill. Let's see what a 2-minute drill looks like for us. I know people can turn around and go, but it's garbage time. It doesn't matter. I'm telling you, Ladarius Slay does not give a shit about garbage time. He cares about fucking winning his downs. The defensive coordinator, they'll all turn around and say it's garbage time. What they're really thinking is, fucking, you made them look good for 5 minutes.
Right.
It doesn't fucking matter. We fans call it garbage time. Coaches don't. Coaches close them out all fucking day.
I agree with you. And to what AJ said earlier, you have to evaluate your players now. Well, what better way to evaluate your players to put them in a high-stress situation, determine whether or not they can play those games? Because if you're trying to run a 2-minute drill to get some points back on the board, if this team makes it to the playoffs, don't you want to know if they're capable of doing that
when they're back in the corner?
Get there? Yeah. I would want to know before I got there. And AJ said that earlier. AJ said we got to evaluate the players now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why not put forth the effort to see what they really can do, what they're made out of, and then you really get an honest evaluation.
You evaluate on both sides, guys. As an offensive mind, I'm evaluating not just my players, I'm evaluating that defense.
Mm-hmm.
At that point,
the defense was on the field enough, so I don't think
I'm talking about evaluating the Eagles. The passing game was potentially getting there, but they closed shop, like you said.
They closed shop, and I was like, well, why we don't get the ball back and like throw spaghetti at a wall and see what sticks? Because that's something you can take into the next game, and that's something you always say about when you're having a blowout. And we weren't blown out; we just we got embarrassed in the other part of the game, which is like the punch game, like the bully game. Like the scoreline flatters, we were fine. Scoreline, it's not an embarrassing game. Like losing by 11 points to the team that was the NFC champions, who is still considered an NFC favorite, who are probably considered the second best team in the NFC, isn't the end of the world.
Not at
but
all.
It's how we lost. Like we had 2 drives that yielded points of possession. That's it. That's not a good look for us. It's not like we were missing a field goal here, or we were getting into position and then get knocked out of position or what have you. Look, there are so many different things. But when you're getting blown out, the one thing I always remember, the offensive coordinator would always turn around and say, guys, this is a chance to see what we can just do. We are playing with no fear now because this game's done. Like, it's over. We're going to lose this game. It don't matter what you guys do. Obviously, at pro level, you don't really want to say that, but you want to say, but collectively between your coaches, you're like, let's put the pedal to the metal and see what happens.
Absolutely.
If it goes off crazy and we got 3 extra picks on top of it, so be it. As long as someone turns around to Baker and says, if you throw any picks, no one's going to kick your ass for it. This is time to play free, open, and just let it rip. Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. And again, you can
take something positive into the next game.
Yeah,
now, don't get me wrong. Their positive plays, the Mike Evans touchdown that finished off, but there was 8 minutes of possession that could have got shortened, that we could have got something out of it.
Absolutely. More than that, you might have been able to turn this game around. I think a lot of people don't realize, like you said, we lost 25-11, not 45-11. Those 8 minutes were crucial. You get this team, you get them a 3-and-out.
On a burnt-out defense, missing both its corners in the second half.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. They didn't need to throw the ball because they could just run it.
Yeah. But if you look at it, when they got those third downs, a lot of them, especially in the fourth quarter, not even from the runs, but the passes, when it was third and something, the corners were way out there. why not? Like you just said, hey, if one of our corners fall and they get a big play, the game was over either way after that. But when you allow them to chew the clock up, you've taken away all kinds of hope because
I think it goes into what you said, AJ, about just not having faith in your team. So we'll just let them and get the fuck out of this game.
That's right.
That was kind of like that was the attitude. It kind of game was like, okay, they're not interested in a fucking going for the jugular and getting multiple scores, which is probably nice because it's almost like a pity kind of like we're not gonna fuck you. We're just
right. It was just
we're gonna ease her in, and we're just gonna see if we can get a little tip it. We're gonna
like
just tip it.
Like
but being like so I like the mindset of the Eagles coach when it came to that thing, right? It wasn't the Dolphins who were putting up 70 freaking points. I don't want to show you everything I've got. If the game is in hand, I want to keep close hold some of those plays and things that I don't want people to plan against.
Nah, you stick to what you've already called and only call that shit.
Yeah, I'll run it down the middle 500 times if you can't stop me 500 times.
Exactly. Because what else do you need to do?
And I'm glad you said that because that might come back and bite Miami in the ass. I know that's off topic.
But gentlemen, I've got a name for you.
Yep.
I've got a big name for you. I don't think he's put Rex Burkhead.
Okay.
You want a power back? Used to be with the New England Patriots.
How old is Burkhead now?
33.
33.
But you want him for short downs. He's that kind of guy who's just going to chug it up.
Yeah, and don't work. Look, if anything,
he's only got 2,000 yards rushing in his career, but and that's insane. But his average at worst was 4.3.
Hey, and nothing wrong
with his averages at worst is 4.3. We could do with a 4.3 right now.
Amen. And sometimes the age come with wisdom. Look, I know, and this guy's
he's that tall guy, isn't he? He's that kind of. I'm not saying bring him in, but I'm bringing him, and he's going to be our main dude or anything. But I honestly see him as that change of pace guy. We just need someone like that kind of thunder and lightning. Because I still think one of the things that we should have done was what they used to do with Brady. The run game's not working. Okay, well I'll just throw it to him instead. I'll throw it to him in space and dump it off to him, and they're good enough that they'll catch the ball and they'll make shit happen. Because let's not forget that gentleman that we do is Rashad White. Still got 1,000 yards all-purpose last year.
He did.
It's
and most of those are gonna, and a good chunk of those are gonna be through the air. And you can see that he's way more comfortable with space to play with because he gets to use those feet of his. He's not going to be that guy. He's never going to be that guy who puts the shoulder down. He accelerates through the hole and whatever's there is there. But if there's nothing there, he'll dance.
Exactly.
If there's no hole there, he'll dance.
Yeah, and instead of just falling forward, because that also, I don't like to dance, guys. I didn't like to because that's where injuries happen. When you dance, you're putting your momentum and destiny in someone else's hands because now that big linebacker can either hit you hard or they'll drag you, and that's when your body turns. If you guys watched if you saw the game on Sunday night with Garoppolo, that's what damn near happened to him. Because sometimes when these guys, sometimes it's the best thing to do is just fall forward. One thing I will say about Brady, he would fall forward on that ground, so you're not twisting him. But when Garoppolo got his body twisted, that's because he's trying to fight and turn. Don't do that. Sometimes it's necessary to just fall the fuck down and live to fight another battle. And like you said, it's like that's what Rashad doesn't get, and he's putting his own self at risk. We do need to get it back. Like you said, guys, I would call Fournette and say, "Hey, Fournette, what do you think, man?" At least
we got a relationship with him. He wanted to leave. He wanted to find pastures anew. Say, look, I know you haven't found what you wanted to find. How about coming back with us, helping us out? We need someone who wants to chug the ball up. Are you up for it? And if he goes, well, I got this offer, fair enough. But the Buccaneers need to swallow. If there's pride that has to be swallowed, now's the time because pride is not going to win you football games.
No,
it's just not. You need someone right now. And to be fair, their shtick as a guy, because we were all talk. I can imagine me and AJ. I remember me and AJ talking back then, and we're talking about going, I'd like to see Rashad White start. I'd like to see Rashad White. There was and of course he was a pure rookie back then, and he had moments of greatness. Leonard Fournette just looked slow. I think was probably the worst part. He just looked a bit slow. But when you're a quarterback,
I think Fournette always looked slow.
Yes,
he looked slow in Jacksonville, and then he would hit somebody, and he would gain 2 more yards, and then he would fall forward for another 3rd yard. And that was
that's what we're missing.
Yeah,
we're missing that. We're missing the thunder, and then him being that change of pace. Like I wouldn't even call them starters. Don't even call them starters. Call them dual. We don't have a starter at running back. It is our starter at running back is not Leonard Fournette, and it's not Rashad White. It's Leonard White.
Yeah,
Leonard White is that starter.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, this offensive scheme is built for a bruising back. That's how they used Walker in Seattle. He showed up here. Whatever happened with Leonard Fournette in the front office behind scenes. We don't know. We just know that there was a mutual agreement to part ways, right? And then now we are left with White, who, yes, he put up 1,000 yards last season. I wouldn't say that those were all great yards.
No.
And numbers sometimes obscure one's ability to actually see where the truth lies, and he's not being utilized in the manner that got him those 1,000 yards last year. Those were a lot of bouncing it to the outside runs, running outside of the guards almost every single time, and now he's being utilized to run between them, and that is not the style of back he is. So
I agree.
That's
why I was confused when we're on with no tosses, no off tackle, no this, no that, no counters. We're just going A gap or B gap, and that is completely it.
And it did not work
because he's not that type of back. He gets 2 yards forward and he's thinking about it, and I'm like,
yes.
Nah. When you're A gap and B gap, it's get past the A gap, and if you've got a one-on-one matchup between you and somebody else, then you can shimmy it to try and get something else. But you'll probably find if you just put your shoulder into them and keep driving and driving and driving, you'll get what you need.
Yeah, agreed. And that's what the thing, because when you get fast, I say this, once you get past the linebackers and the D line, sometimes you don't even need to shake the damn corner of safety. Your typical corner ain't trying to tackle anyway. They'll do that half-ass little bend down and then run through that and then keep the momentum going. The whole point of a back, especially north and south, the motto is keep it moving. And yes, Christopher Cole, you are correct. It was Byron Leftwich-esque energy, and you guys know how I hate that shit.
If they're loading the box, let them load the box. You go, okay, I'm going to stop you from loading the box by passing the fucking ball, and you're going to go, we can't load the box anymore because they are killing us with this pass.
Facts.
And now you've got balance. Now you have balance because now you can go back to the run because they have to honor the pass because you've been getting success with it. Sometimes they always say you have to run the ball to open up the pass. Sometimes you have to pass the ball to open up the run.
Palmer
system.
And there was a lack of those short routes. The quickest way to beat a blitz, the quickest way to get a defense to back off of a run are those short to intermediate routes. And there was a lack of those, specifically ones that were designed to find space. There was no receivers crossing each other's paths from both sides of the field, which we saw the Eagles do quite a few times.
Yes.
To provide that space and interrupt the defender's capability to stay with the receiver. And those things didn't happen. And so we did that in week 2. Why did we move away from it in week 3?
Intimidation, because they saw
the nickel. Their nickel back was their biggest weakness. That even the broadcast was talking about how their nickel back was. That it may as well have been a guy from the street.
Yes.
Why we didn't attack the nickel with either tight end power or with a pretty slot plate and health. If you're that nervous and you want to have a bit more sureness or a bit more experience in the slot, put Chris Godwin in the slot. He can play inside, outside. It doesn't matter. That's what he's known for. A lot of people want us to move. I've heard Bucs fans say they think that Chris Godwin is better than Mike Evans because he has a much more varied, he is a much more open and silky skill set compared to Mike Evans, who is a little bit more of a bludgeon wide receiver.
And we didn't go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's it.
And we have these weapons, right? But there's no variation to things. I am a huge believer in a 2 tight end set when you have 2 tight ends, such as Coe and Otten. One is a phenomenal blocker. The other one is a great blocker and a great receiver. He's, we referred to him as mini Gronk a couple times, even on this show before.
Mm-hmm.
You can play your 2 receiver set, and you have your Evans on one side and your Godwin on the other. You have
with the run game too, because
you have Cade Otton do his quick chip and out to the flats, and you can have White play to his strengths and roll out on a wheel route. And now you have a 4 receiver set that's playing to all levels of the field, and one of them is providing a safety net to the quarterback, while the other ones are confusing the defense and finding space. And we're not doing any of that.
No.
And I predicted that we would see more Cade Otton as the playbook opened up.
Yep, I think we all thought it was going to be an unsung hero from the Buccaneers that was going to make the plays, that was going to be the name on offense. And I think AJ was expecting it to be
Palmer.
I would probably expect it to be either Palmer or Otten, because there's still those players that no one sat. There's not that their face isn't on on the Eagles blackboard. Are going, watch out for this guy. Don't get me wrong. In the positional room, there might be. In the positional room, that they gotta be, because if you're in the nickel in the nickel room, you've got to respect those 2 guys, because that's the 2 starters, right? So that's what you're going to go up against. But from a whole of the offense, that whole of their defense, it's stop Mike Evans and stop Chris Godwin. They're 2 1,000-yard receivers. You stop them, stop their run game. They have nothing. That's when you go, okay, Trey, okay, Cade, now it's your time to shine, because they don't think you guys can do nothing. And those short, intermediate, little outs, little ins, small seams, small
drag routes, wheel routes, all those pieces play into that, and they're not doing any of it.
You can do and shallow. They have to do shallow crossing. I think if they do shallow crossing, this Bucs offense could be deadly, especially if you use Palmer in it. There's going to be certain plays where they just have to go, okay, this guy is this. Palmer's coming to you. Evans is coming to you. Damn, reading all the routes. Make it happen, especially on blitzes. I think that's the problem sometimes. If you see something like you were saying, Buck Salty, my issue is if you see that they're going to blitz, get a short damn pass in there. Make it go, okay, this – a lot of times the middle was wide the fuck open. Go for it.
We don't play with seams. I don't know why.
God only knows. I'm the same. I'm like, wait a minute. If they're going to –
I think the only time – maybe it was because – maybe it was because the seam was picked off earlier in the game.
Yeah, you gotta go. Sometimes you can't. If it happens,
Absolutely.
Their Eagles defense, they're one in the trenches, not in the secondary, or even in their linebacker. Kill them with the pass. Now, now Buck fans, I just have to say this: we're not panicking. We just are evaluating. Your Buccaneers are still 2-1. They have a very winnable chance against a team with a quarterback that we are familiar with. So we are just telling you guys, this is still a good thing. This could be a blessing in disguise. I'm going to tell you what, Buc fans, the last time the Eagles beat us in the regular season, what happened? We got back to the playoffs, and the greatest play in Buccaneer history happened. And what did Devin White say? We'll be back. I love that. I think Devin has hit a point to where, because that interception, of course, and he was playing with a groin injury, I do think he's at a point now where he's trying to get focused again and say, no, I want to win. I believe. The Baker thing is real. So I guarantee you these guys are going back to the drawing board. They're going to figure out what works. This offense, I think the next week, and we can all talk about this again on sometime this week on the Bucs preview with the Saints, I do think that they're going to learn from their errors, especially Canales is going to go, okay, well, this didn't work. So definitely roll out. I think they're going to have to really get more rollouts and bootlegs going. Like you said, Buck Salty, the middle is the weakness at this point when they load it. The Saints are going to try to do that. So roll that shit out and use Palmer He got a 4-3. You drafted him for a reason. If not, use Otten. Like you said, Slick, the seam is wide open. For whatever reason, a lot of defenses disrespect our seams. Otten, get out there and go past.
So here's my question for you, gentlemen. We talked about the negative because we got to, because it wasn't a negative game. What are your positives? And we can't be negative in the positive. So I'm going to give my positive. I'm going to give my truth. I'm going to give my what I think was good. This defense is still legit. They just got to sort out the run. If they sort out the run, they'll be fine. And they've sorted out the run for 2 games. So maybe they would just do a stupid game. I don't know. The defensive defensive passing threat was good. Even with cushion coverage, we weren't. He didn't have a game, man. Like, he really didn't. The picks, this defense is still explosive. It held the NFC champs to 25 points. That ain't bad. We need to get better on offense. We need to figure out what works, what doesn't work, and we need to shelve. And this is what I'm saying. You don't have to abandon the run game, Dave. You just need to shelve it. Put it on the side for a bit. Let it percolate. Let it get some air. And let's put the air in the ball, and then you can bring back that run game. Because it's probably going to be open a bit more once people start respecting your pass game. Because you have elite level wide receivers. You have arguably one of the better wide receivers in football. I mean, from Bucs fans, Mike Evans is gold. And then Chris Godwin is so talented. You can play him inside, outside, left to right. It doesn't matter. You've got an emerging talent in Trey Palmer. Yes, he's raw. But you've seen with Christian Isian. Let that raw talent percolate. Let that raw talent go, because you're going to see more from it. Because Isian had a heck of a game from a defensive standpoint. He's got to feel on top of the world, except for the loss, of course. Lots of tackles. He just seemed to appear. He kind of gave me, the best way of putting this is Rondé Barber vibes about just like how he was here.
I like that.
The hunger. Yeah, no, I
probably
agree.
did, because he was blitzing a little bit. Of course, he didn't get home, but and just to go with that, it also gave me a bit of like Antoine Winfield vibes, because Antoine Winfield, doesn't matter where the ball's thrown or where the ball is, he's somewhere in the frame of that picture. Doesn't matter where it is. He's like the Levante David of safeties.
Mm-hmm. And I like what you said, Slick. And believe it or not, I'm gonna a lot of people. This is my hot take. The secondary, I give them a solid B+. And I say that because they did their job. A lot of people, I'm going to be real.
They could have got torched.
Yeah.
Devontae Smith, how many hang on, I'm going to have to look this shit up. I didn't know.
Devontae Smith didn't do shit. And
I know he's on my fantasy team.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, Delaney outplayed Dean. Now, I know Dean was not healthy, but Delaney didn't do
DeAndre Swift got 1 catch for 8 yards.
Exactly.
Smith, AJ Brown got one for 30, 1 for 31, no touchdowns.
Exactly. He was, and a
That's
lot of
good, but it's not great, is it? It's not like
no.
It's not
a lot of
Monday Night Football game. Yep. Nobody on their team other than DeAndre Swift popped off.
DeAndre Swift was the MVP. Like I said, we know that. So
it's not even close.
Yeah, and on the Bucs offense, I'm gonna go with Otten. Otten was getting hot. Otten was cooking.
I know he had 1 catch for 16.
Hey, he was, but his blocking was okay.
You got to go to more than that. Yeah.
So I like that, and those are my big things. The secondary, I was impressed. I can tell you that now. When I was watching, I said, "Wow, Hurts, y'all days are numbered, Eagles." When this offense gets to the point where they can be consistently average, because they're gonna get there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's gonna be hard. This defense is gonna get better, especially when we're healthy. I like the fact that they kept Carlton Davis out. I felt like that they were saying there's no need to take a risk. We're 2-1.
Zion played pretty well. I mean, he probably went against their boy, Devontae Smith. and obviously held his own because Devontae Smith has one catch for 8 yards. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, they did just run the ball. But at the same time, if I'm in their shoes, I want that balance too, because
They couldn't achieve it in the first half.
Exactly.
The secondary did their job, just like AJ's saying. And let's take into the fact that half of them are injured,
Yep.
and the secondary still held up. Some of the positives I liked.
please give me. I pray a hallelujah just for a fucking healthy secondary for one whole fucking season.
Facts.
Are we gonna be bringing up Richard Sherman to come off fucking skipping Richard?
God, I hope not.
To come and join us again.
Yes.
Oh my god. Hey, I like Richard Sherman. I got a lot of love for him. Actually, my wife's favorite player.
I can dig it.
When we went to Florida for our honeymoon, they had a documentary about him, and she just loved how much of a trash talker he was. I just like the cut of this guy's jib. He's fucking cool. I was like, fair enough. They had that, and the old Chiefs running back. What's his name?
Jamal Charles.
Jamal Charles. Yeah, like how the shit that he went through, like with I think his sister got murdered or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have to check on that.
I think it turned out it was like a teammate or something like that. I'm not 100% sure because it's so long ago. It's 10 years. 10 years next year. And I'm coming back to Tampa.
My man. Well, Buck Salty, though, you were saying about your goods, your positives.
So I pinged Baker earlier because
that's fair.
I hate his numbers for when he's pressured. But I will say this. He had a lot of poise. And what he didn't do was throw the ball into tough spots and make more turnovers.
Stupid.
Like AJ
he
was
did not play stupid.
Like you were saying earlier, Slick, I'm not mad about that interception he had. That was a great play by the defender.
It's a good defensive play.
But what he didn't do is what he was doing at the tail end of his time in Cleveland, and that is scramble and just chuck it up with a hope and a prayer and get a high number of interceptions. He didn't do that. No, he held his poise. He went down when he needed to go down. He threw the ball away when he needed to throw the ball away, and he played a game that would have gotten way out of hand had he not matured over the past few seasons.
I agree.
So
I think that's a really solid analysis of how he's been playing for the Buccaneers. And it's pleasant to see that we're 3 games into the season and our quarterback is throwing 1 pick.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't fucking bad, guys. And if you think about it, it's not a crappy pick. I mean, I know a pick's a pick, but it's not a crappy pick where can you remember those days when we used to sit? We probably wouldn't sit here, but we'd sit down. You sat with your buddies talking Bucs football, and James Winston. Oh no, that was on the wide receiver. No, that was on this, and we'd be arguing about whose fault the pick fucking was.
God, that was
clearly and obvious. This was just a good defensive play pick. Nothing Chris Godwin did was wrong. Nothing he did was wrong. He didn't stare down Chris Godwin. He looked to the other side and then went to Chris Godwin, and he just made a great play. Comes down, seals the ball off, and takes it. And I'm okay with it. Didn't like it because obviously it goes against us. Yeah. But I'm like, well, out of all the picks in the world, that ain't bad to start off with. And it's not like it ruined the game. He did so far, and I said this to AJ, is I just want us to have a quarterback that helps us win games, and we don't lose games because of him, and we don't win games in spite of him. So, like, our defense has to play extra hard.
You know who that sounds like?
3 fucking interceptions, but we still grind out the win.
Sounds like Brad Johnson.
Hey, I honestly think that the next game, the Bucs will bounce back and they're going to learn. And Baker, it's just, we all know now the priority is the run game. They've been talking about it all season as well, but we know the main priority.
What we were going to come into, we didn't know what our run game was really going to be like because we had a running back that showed promise but had never been the guy, realistically.
Yeah.
With, let's face it, an offensive line that is pretty much brand new. We've got a guy playing left tackle for the first time in his career. We've got a guy who's playing pro right tackle for the first time in his career. We've got a returning center that probably wasn't meant to return as center because we were all expecting Ryan Jensen to be there. We've got a rookie in Cody Muff, who's his first time playing, and Matt Fryer was probably the weakest link out of all of those guys. Who, if I'm honest, we were all expecting somebody else to have that job.
I hear you. And guys, for me, I'm gonna wrap it up in a sec because I got to get myself out of here. But I do want to ask these questions first. But before I do that, I hope you guys are tuning in on the Aftermath on 102.9 The Game, Broad Street South Radio. And it's always a pleasure because Buck Salty isn't here. So I'm gonna ask you this: going into this next game to the Saints on both sides of the ball, offensive and defensively, what are one thing for each side that you want to see happen instantly?
One thing for each side. So offensively, I want to see some quick outs. You have to do that early in order to beat that blitz. The Saints have a great defensive line. So you're going to have to beat the blitz that they put pressure on. And then you have to find a way outside from the middle. You can't continue to just stuff the ball down the middle. So I would like to see some play calling that aligns to the strengths of the running back, White, and let's see if he can actually, return to a better form that we saw last year. And let's see those three routes, those short and intermediate and deep routes, being utilized at the same time to spread a defense out and keep them honest. So that's the one thing I want to see on the offensive side of the house. The thing I want to see on the defensive side of the house is, I'm going to give you two parts here. One is what we all want to see. We want to see that healthy secondary because that secondary, when healthy, could possibly be a top 5 secondary in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I want to see is if he plays, if he's not hurt, I want to see Cansey. And I want to see a leap. He was drafted high for a reason. He's been given those attributes and praise that said he was somewhere near an Aaron Donald type level.
No, I think they just played at the same university and they played the same position.
Yeah. So
that's
we haven't seen that. One. Yeah. I'd like to see him in there and wreaking havoc. You load the box with him, Vida, and JTS, and that should be a formidable front. We haven't seen it yet. It does take time for him. He is a rookie. He needs to get to the game. Needs to slow down for him for a minute, and so I want to see that growth in him because I do feel that once he is at the speed that he needs to be at, they are going to have to pick who they're going to double team. Is it going to be Vitavia, or is it going to be Cansey? And then that leaves JTS.
Greg Gaines is a beast of a human being.
Mm-hmm. At least Barrett.
You put those three on there. Oh my Lord, I am salivating.
So I think, and I'll give you a prediction here. I think you'll start to see him roll around and be able to play at a higher level by week 6.
I agree.
I like that. Well, since I'm gonna bounce off in the side, I'll just give you mine. You were right. I'll start with defense. You're right, Cansey. You nailed everything you just said. If Cansey can have an average season, the Bucs, interior front seven will be deadly. Now on offense, I want to see more creativity. That's all I need. I want to see crossing routes. I want to see them take advantage of individual players. That's why I said earlier, I like to go. I study defensive players as well. I go, okay, this guy's a bigger hitter, but he can't cover for shit outside of intermediate routes. Go past him. So that is what I want, and I do see that happening. But when it comes to this offense clicking, I don't see it until, like I said, the end of November and early December. But that's for me, guys. But I'm going to head on out. Again, everybody, you can catch me on my show at It's About Buck and Time and on YouTube. And then also check out AJ Turnable on Instagram and get you some nice gear. Hit the link. And as always, go Bucs, and you fellas take it easy.
Awesome. We'll see you later, AJ.
So all I got to say is on this is the thing that really got me was the negativity of Bucs fans on there. There was some talk about the stadium. Obviously, you could hear the chants and what have you. And that's the second time this year. The second time this year we've only played 3 games, so that's never good. I think the case is just like we're a team that doesn't sell out stadiums. That's just the way it's going to be. So we've got to learn to live in a hostile environment, regardless of what happens. But it is not nice to hear on a broadcast. Now, I don't live in Tampa. It's not like I can sit there and go, but I don't think I could afford it because I've seen what season tickets look like in price range. So I think I'd have to cherry pick games, and it'd probably be the cheaper ones, if I'm brutally honest. And then you see how much the concessions are inside as well. It's a thing. So I understand like economy and what have you, but it's not nice to hear on a Monday night football game that your team is in its own stadium and you can hear the other team's chants while you're on offense. That's not good, man. That's
no. And Tampa is a victim of location. Nobody is retiring and moving to Philly. So there's a large base of damn near every team on the East Coast down here, down there because I live in Maryland. Down there in Florida. So there is that.
You're probably quite close to AJ because I think he lives in DC.
Oh, does he? I'll have to I'll have to talk to him offline about that then. We need to watch a game together.
Yeah, I think something's got to get done there.
Yeah. But I'm not going to make an excuse for location-wise, though. It's unacceptable.
It's not what you want to see. It's not a good advert for your team, is it?
No.
Like, it's frustrating to see, and it's just that it plays into the game a little bit as well. It's like there's that little bit like we're in our own stadium and our guys can't even cheer us on.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm a player, that's probably what's going on. And there's more to it than just that, but that's what that really looks like to a player or what have you. You're not inspired when you're in your own stadium and you can hear. And then someone turn around, yeah, but if you're in Las Vegas or you're we're not in Las Vegas. And yeah, that sucks for them. But they moved house. They chose to go there.
Yes.
That's different.
Well, Miami doesn't have the problem that Tampa does. And when's the last time Miami won anything? Miami's
Miami games. History, isn't it?
Yeah, they don't have the same problem of fandom as the Buccaneers do. They don't have a huge amount of other. I mean, they do have crowds come in for other teams, but nowhere near the size and volume that we saw this Monday night. And it's discouraging. I mean, I don't live in Florida. If I can get down there after I retire, then I would be a season ticket holder in a heartbeat. So that's it's neither here nor there, but it does suck, and I hate it when I hear the other team's chants.
Yeah. But to piggyback off what AJ was talking about, for me, I think for the Saints, all we got to do is, Jameis, throw it up. We're ready. Throw it up. We're ready.
I don't know. We'll see. He, he closed out those last few times being very efficient. I think they got smart in play calling and limiting the amount of times and depth that he threw at, and he started to become a little more efficient. I don't know if that'll be fully the case.
But his efficiency led you. Also take this into account that when Derek Carr went down, they were at one point they were 17 plus up in the third quarter. They coughed up 18 points to lose the game by a point.
A field goal that they missed
since the half, and he couldn't get a single point. So is that a case of he is held back by a muzzle and he can't do nothing because they're like, this motherfucker's gonna kill us? So they have muzzled him, say he's got no teeth and he can't do nothing.
I think you bring up a very good point.
That's the way I'm looking at it. I'm like, I looked because my head coach of the team that I coach, he was trying to wind me up about the Bucs loss, and I went, dude, your team literally led 17-0
Nothing.
and lost the game in the fourth quarter 18-17. So
Yep.
shut the fuck up. My team got beat by one of the best teams in the NFC. They are they'll probably end up being the second seed in the NFC, potentially the first. We don't know what's going to happen down the line, but they're going to be in the top 2.
Yep.
You lost to a team that had Aaron Rodgers and had wide receivers that they don't have anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You lost to a team that lost their running back in that game, and you still lost.
It's going to be an interesting battle, that's for sure.
I mean, it's the Saints. It's divisional. It's personal. It's everything what you want it to be honest. But I honestly, right now, I see Atlanta being the bigger demon right now. I see Atlanta being, especially now the fact that I've seen we're struggling to stop the run when we have good run. Now, that could just be because of how good their offensive line is.
Yes.
The Atlanta Falcons' offensive line is nowhere near the talent of
the Eagles.
So I could live with that because at the end of the day, good running backs would do good things. He's highly touted. A lot of hype is on this guy, and so far he's lived up to the challenge. But he needs that smack in the mouth game. I don't think the Buccaneers are going to be that team.
Given our defense, as long as the offense can stay on the field and our defense can stay rested, I don't think you'll see the drop off in other games that we saw in this one in particular.
I think we met the immovable object
and
kept on trying to move the object. That was the problem.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's perfect. Yeah.
So just to sum up on this, Bucs will obviously win because obviously we're the Bucs and we should win every game. But the thing is, the sky is not falling down, guys. Mm-hmm. How many of us have sat here and go, oh, well, the Buccaneers will probably lose about 6, 7. Some of us have said 8. Some people have said 5. We've been in that round. This is only one of those. And here, let me just break this down for you, gentlemen. If the Buccaneers go into if you attack every the season as quarters, and the Buccaneers go 3-1, 3-1, 3-1, 3-1, what have you got?
You got a winning football team that's ready for the playoffs.
You got a winning football team with a game yet left to go. Now, if the Buccaneers go 2-2, 2-2, 3-1, 3-1, what have you got? Still a winning fucking football team.
Yep.
And let me break it down even worse. You go 2-2, 2-2, 2-2, 3-1. You're still a winning football team before the last game. And even worse, 2-2, 2-2, 2-2, 2-2. You got the final game to finish it off. Yep. Just like last season. It's not over. There's so much more to this. Guys, yeah, how we lost wasn't great. We did not get embarrassed in our home stadium. We didn't have points scored up and down upon us. We didn't get that 70 bird that made Sean Payton look like he's lost. That guy has access to what people used to call a Hall of Fame quarterback. This is detrimental to Russell Wilson's Hall of Fame legacy right now. Like, it is really bad. This guy went from being considered one of the, I won't say the greatest talents, but one of the better talents of the National Football League since, let's say, 2010 to where we are right now, in the last decade. But in that time, he's fallen off the wagon and he's really not been anything close to what he was.
Yes, not. He left Pete Carroll, and he was going downhill a little bit. And when he left Pete Carroll, obviously it looks much worse now. But I saw one Bucs fan on X or Twitter made a comment that I couldn't help but laugh at, referring to the 70 points. He very much said, "I couldn't have thought of a better coach for that to happen to."
and I love it because this is a guy who has he was always sat there with his pouty lips. with his little clipboard.
Yep.
Most irritating coach I've never disliked a coach until I watched Sean Payton. I don't know what it is about it. There's something about him just gets under my skin. And he's obviously a good coach, but there's something about that. But as I always say to my Saints fans, and Saints fans, if you're watching, remember, you had a Hall of Fame quarterback and you won the Super Bowl with a Hall of Fame quarterback for 10 minutes. We won a Super Bowl combined with the Super Bowl we already won, and we're still leading your division in Super Bowls. Peace out. That's it from me. Thank you for joining us, Buck Salty or Salty Buck. I don't know which one you prefer. I heard it was Old Salty Buck.
Old Salty Buck.
I'm going to go with Old Salty Buck. So thank you for coming on. But to the Saints fans, fuck you. And to the rest of us, enjoy your night, enjoy your booze. I know I am. I've had a couple of tipples. And hey, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.